Welcome, everyone. Nice to see you guys here. My name is Allison, TCA Speaks. And hey, Lindsay, how are you? Anyways, I wanted to introduce myself because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some new people coming into the chat because Chaos Divers was so kind enough to share the link tonight. Chaos Divers is close to the Milligan family, and they have been here several times. They're going to be coming again. I'm going to let Mark, he is backstage. That is Harry Milligan's brother. And anyways, I'm loving to see all the new faces here. I don't get to go live very much because work, life. But the reason why I started my channel was because of Harry Milligan. He is from the town. He was from the town that I live in, Albia, Iowa. And he went missing July 1st, 1984. And him and his car never to be seen again. And nobody was talking about it. And I couldn't figure out why nobody was talking about this 21-year-old Marine reservist, him disappearing, and it blew my mind. And I decided I need to make a difference somehow. And so my channel, I have a little conspiracies in between, but Harry Milligan is what my channel is about. We've got to find him, bring him home, give this family some closure because I couldn't imagine. Hello, Sharon, Ohio. Hey, Lori. Lori is Mark's wife. So I am going to bring Mark up and we're just going to talk and see what he's got going on. He'll talk about Chaos Divers and everything in between. And I really appreciate you guys being here. Let's get him up here.
Uh-oh. How we doing?
Hey, Mark.
Hey, everybody.
This is Harry's little brother. What, you guys are three years apart, right?
Yep, about 3 years apart. Yep.
Yeah.
He was born in 62 and I was born in 65. So
I got my Harry shirt on.
there you go. I had mine on earlier and it was dirty, so I changed shirts.
Well, like I said before we went live, I had to unload trailer, load a trailer, and windy out there, and oh gosh. Anyways,
Jim's always got to keep you busy.
Oh yeah, no, I have to keep him busy.
Well,
He likes to jabber.
That's probably true too. That's probably really true.
He jabbers. I work.
I see that both ways sometimes, I guess. That's what Lori's good for. That's what she does. She stands and talks while I work. So
that's okay. That's okay. Anyways, hey Dave, how are you?
A lot of new faces.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's a lot of old faces, but there's a lot of new faces there too. Sure. I'm really happy to see that.
That's awesome.
That's all we want. Harry's name out there. Yep.
That's the main thing, getting the story out. You know, I mean, that's still part of the whole, mission is pushing it out there because you just never know when it's going to be, that one person or that one piece of information that turns everything around and puts things in a whole different perspective and gets things moving in the right direction. Not that they ain't been moving in the right direction for a while, but I think they definitely are. So, but there's a lot of things that needs to change.
You can't talk. I know you can't talk a lot about different things, but you just said that there's things moving along.
Well, just like, first thing, shout out to Chaos Divers for putting this, for Jacob and Lindsay putting this on their site, that we're going to talk tonight. It's probably been, I don't know how long since we did one of these, 3 months.
Oh, it's been longer than that, I think.
It's probably been, I know it's at least been 3 or 4 months. Mostly, to explain a lot of that, it's my fault. Not really my fault, just my choice, I guess. It's back to that same thing that once in a while you just got to find your own
you have to
clarity and everything, you know, and there were just a lot of things going on, law enforcement wise, with me and law enforcement, and with other things that, um, you know, from the very beginning of pushing this to social media and using this avenue for everything. Um, I thought it came to a point to where I needed to just um, step back and see what happened. You know, see what takes place, see what happens, rather than to just push all the time. To give, you know, from the very start, law enforcement, you know, really didn't want my opinion. You know, um, and for some perspective of it, I get that because of all the, you know, 40 years down the road, all the rumors and the different things that are out there. They wanted to, you know, look at it with a, I guess, a clean slate and start from there and not really be influenced by me or anybody else, and do their thing. So basically, the last 3 or 4 months, I got to a point to where that's what I wanted to do, is just step back and say, okay, you know, let's see what happens. Um, Over that 3 or 4 months, you know, to be very honest, nothing's happened. Absolutely nothing. You know, other than, you know, I can't say that. There's been a lot of good people that's reached out to me personally, you know, and gave me information, or, you know, pointed out different things that, you know, maybe places to look, rumors that have been, you know, rumors and stories and different things like that. That's continued like always, you know, and that's the great thing about, you know, social media, and the people like you know, like Chaos, like, you know, all the other, you know, podcasters and YouTubers and stuff that have done stories on Harry, you know, and continue to push it out there. um, that seems to always keep things alive, you know, and it keeps Harry's story out there. So that's kind of where I was with things. That's why I chose to step away for a little bit and just, one, clear my own head of everything, and do a lot of thinking, you know, I guess is a way to look at it, and try to piece things together. And sometimes, you know, when you're the family member of somebody in a situation like this, it is hard to sit back and look at things with a clear head. You know, you want to find answers so bad that sometimes you find yourself chasing things that, you know, you don't know if it's the way you need to be going or the way you're not, you know. So that's kind of, you know, the way things have been going now. um, I'm still back, you know. Several months ago, you know, Ken Maines, you know, with Unsolved No More, he took a look at the case, and really, in an eye-opening way. I mean, I think he to the conclusion he came to at that time was a fair conclusion for what he knew. You know, he assumed a lot of things as far as information and things that were done, as far as, you know, assuming that the case file that he was looking at was only part of a case file. But when in reality, that's it. That's all there is, and all that's been done. It woke me up a lot to looking at things a lot different. You know, it's back to where we started looking at the fact. And when I talked about doing a reset, it was the ideal of looking at probability versus possibility. You know, and where that's come into the biggest thing is um, through, you know, without a doubt, chaos divers. You know, the probability leads to Harry, you know, that night was drinking, obviously, out with friends, having a good time, doing whatever, and maybe ended up, you know, crashing his car somewhere, or driving off somewhere, and ended up in a body of water or a ravine somewhere or something. So with those guys, we went back, and you know, I keep a map, which I'll share at some point here soon, that
I
has
want to.
every location.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That has every location that we've searched. You know, um, some have been searched multiple times. You know, just either law enforcement went through DNR or through chaos divers. You know, there's more to be searched. That's kind of what, you know, the big thing now is Jacob has stayed in touch with me pretty regular about looking at maps and possible locations and things where Harry could have went and drove off into a body of water, and him in the car just never being found. So that's been one of the big issues, is doing that, is looking at things through probability. And then you go back to possibility, so that's back to where pushing the story out and getting it to the right people. You hope somebody, says something at some point, because somebody knows something, I think me and you, we've talked enough, and with our little circle of friends, we've talked enough to probably believe that, yeah, there's still somebody out here that knows something about what happened that night. I believe that, it's just a matter of maybe getting somebody to realize that, it's as simple as just saying something to somebody,
Yeah,
and
because we live
putting
in a small
into
town.
everything.
That's it's so baffling, because what right now Albia is what, 4,000, if that. I don't know what it was back in 1984, but I mean, it just doesn't make sense. Well, like this map right here, it goes right here's Albia, and this is where Harry and Mark lived. What is it, 6, 7, 8 miles?
It's about 6 miles. I mean, it's 6 miles
Yeah.
from Albia to Avery. I know there's a paved road that was the primary, way that we went back and forth to town. Yeah, there's a couple back roads that lead to Avery that a guy could have taken. So that's back to, like I say, that's that probability thing. Last time Chaos was here, we searched, a lot of those locations. Some of the locations we even looked at with the drought we've had in Iowa. You could walk up to a pond and look and see that there wasn't a car in it because there wasn't hardly any water in the ponds. So I mean, the more we rule that out and the more we keep doing that, like I said, it always gives me there was a lot of searches done the first time that gave me the ease of mind of knowing that, I know where I don't need to look anymore, so.
Well, I mean, Harry, I didn't get to know Harry, but I still, if I'm driving and I look at a pond that Jacob and Lindsay haven't searched yet, I literally think, is Harry in that pond, or is Harry in that body of what? I don't know how you do it, Mark. I really don't. And when you talk
tough,
about taking a break, this is your life.
Right.
This is you and Lori's life, is Harry,
Right.
and trying to figure it out. Nobody understands that. They can't unless they've been through it, because I can't even comprehend it. I didn't know him, but I think about him all the time.
And then there's the things that that are just like today. I'm at work. I work for the roads department. I'm out. We're doing something as simple as patching roads. Putting patch and pavements out on the highways, and we're on Old 34. Between Albia and Ottumwa. And yeah, it's hard to be in an area like that and not think, oh wow, I don't remember seeing that pond before, or I don't remember seeing that before, and it literally can drive you crazy at times, so that's the hard part, and that's why I say sometimes to me, I have to step away and go, okay, I got a life, I got a wife and I got grandkids. It's you gotta do the right thing there too. You can't spend your whole life looking for just driving yourself crazy either. So that's the tough part, and then just there's the the bad part about it is you start watching everything going on around and you realize and I'm not bashing Monroe County law enforcement per se, but you start to look around and realize that you're not the only one in that boat and that there's so much of it. Just like here recently, one of the big things that's, I've had one of the deputies reach out to me the last couple of days, talking about little things, but, and I don't know if you saw that. Did you see where they just found they just identified that Jane Doe.
Yep.
That the county next to us has had a Jane Doe since 76, I think it was,
It was something like
42,
that.
42 years.
Yep.
And they found her remains had been found along the river. What, I don't know how many, it was like in Missouri, wasn't it? Or I think
In
it's
Missouri.
in Missouri or someplace. It was cleared out in Missouri, and they've had her remains and had her, in a gravesite as a Jane Doe for years. And then now with the new, DNA and the different things, they've identified her as the missing girl from here that was in Wapello County at that time.
Yeah.
So I mean, you see stuff like that, and you think, wow, I mean, it gives you keeps giving you that same hope that the same thing could happen with Harry. It's all a matter of just figuring out where to look, where did he go? I mean, and shout out to them. I mean, the deputy that got a hold of me, he said they purposely, put in their press release how many missing people there are and Jane Does and John Does in the state of Iowa, just to try to get everybody aware that, this is a problem. This is something that needs attention and everybody needs to be aware of and start looking at, I mean, it's,
Smiling Wolfette says, how do we know Harry's not in a John Doe grave? When that happened to the girl missing in 1978, it gives us renewed faith. And then Iowa Girl wants to know, do you have Harry's DNA?
We do have Harry's DNA. That was obtained from some letters. At least that's what I've been told. It was obtained from some letters that he had wrote when he was in the military to an old friend, girlfriend, friend. So they said they actually obtained his DNA through those letters. Since Harry was adopted, they made contact with his natural born mother or family to some extent, and positively identified that that it's his DNA. So they do have his DNA. It's been, as far as I know, as far as I know, been entered into the CODA system, the law enforcement system, so that it is regularly, ran through the system or regularly checked is the way they put it. So yeah, we do have his DNA. What was the other question you had? Oh, has all the John Doe graves been checked? No. One of the biggest problems with some of the John Does is they don't have DNA for them, or well, I guess I'll be very specific. There's one in Powesheet County that was within a couple of years of Harry, that's still a John Doe up there right now. I've been in contact with them. I've asked about whether or not they would be willing to, I guess, exhume the remains and get DNA. Not only just for one, could it be Harry? Yes, it could. Do I think it is? I don't know. But at the same time, they have the technology nowadays to get that DNA, put it into a system, and at least identify who this guy is, or who his family is, so that there's not somebody, say in California, missing a family member and they don't know that he ended up in Iowa, and nobody here knows who it is, just similar to this case we just talked about with the Wapello County girl being clear into Missouri, and they have her forever as a John Doe. So, their excuse to me was, if I could get dental records of Harry's, they could possibly match dental records. I think I have dental records. I don't know that they are. They ain't. I've took them to a couple dentists. They're from a entry form from when he was entered as missing through NCI system. They appear to be dental records. A couple of dentists believe that they're probably his dental records, but I don't know that for sure. Um, so it's a matter of getting back with them and trying to see, what they have versus what I have. I mean, personally, their thing is, and I get it. There's always issues with money for whatever agency out there, but their thing is we talked about this before. We've talked about it again, and it costs too much money. We're not gonna exhume these remains and have them sent in for DNA testing because it would cost us too much money.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. I don't get that.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess that's that's one of them things that I think is a disservice to all missing people and Jane Does and families everywhere that's going through something like this, because even though you might have found this person's remains back in I think his was 1986, 87, somewhere not too long after Harry was missing. um I get it, you didn't have that technology now, but you do now. And I guess my thing is what do people want to spend their money on? I'd rather see my tax dollars go to something like that than some of the other ignorance that you watch every day. So
yeah, this is Harry right here for anybody that doesn't know. And this is what his car would have looked like. This is not his car, but this is what it would have looked like. That's a big car to just disappear. Yeah. I mean, just gone.
The biggest problem, I've seen a couple of the comments about, why is the burden on the family and some of that stuff. It's pretty simple. I mean, I don't know where, I think it's Eclipse Truth or whatever.
Yeah.
Might have said that. I'm not sure where you're from. I know that, I'm from Iowa. We're in a small rural community for the most part. The town that Harry come up missing from, where we grew up, Albie, is maybe 3,500 people. Law enforcement wise, they've got a city police department with 6 or 7 officers. They got a sheriff's department with probably the same, somewhere in that neighborhood. The biggest problem is you got to find somebody that gives enough. Well, that trying to do this without cussing, I guess, but that really gives a shit about what they're doing. That's what it boils down to. You got to have an officer or a deputy or an investigator that really wants to care enough to do everything that they can, and you got to have an agency behind them that wants to clear it up, clear things up, and do the right thing. And a lot of these smaller communities are money driven, and budget driven and those type of things. So it makes it tough. I think that's my biggest problem right now. I'll be very honest. 3 years ago, or almost 4 years ago, we had a meeting after some push to try to get them to look at the case again. They said that they would. They say that they have. As far as what my family or I know of what they have done, other than Deputy Worth, that's the investigator, going out on several searches. He's been very helpful with when Chaos Divers here of helping, of being present for them searches, for for all of that stuff, which is highly appreciated. But as far as anything else that they have done, I have not a clue. Not one clue.
That's why we need a cold case.
And I've been specifically told that I don't have to tell you, and I'm not going to tell you what we've done. I don't get that. I don't understand it. It's a missing persons case. At this particular point, for some of the people that are new to the chat tonight and don't understand, I was a cop for 21 years, so I know the law. I know a lot about the law. I know what can be done, what can't be done. The excuses of not talking to a family, to me, is absolute bullshit. And that's why we have the problem between the public and law enforcement, because we don't have transparency.
Yeah.
I've been told that me talking and trying to, you know, push people, or talk to people, pushing buttons, saying things, has done nothing but harm an investigation. It makes it impossible to investigate anything. That's crap. Um, you know, um, there's a lot more I could have done and will be doing in the future because I my wife and I, we've talked about it. There's a list of people that I need to talk to sit down face to face and talk to. I've kind of put some of that off only because, like you say, one, I don't want to get in the road of law enforcement, but
Yeah.
now I don't care. That's just the way I look at it. I don't care. I'm going to do what I got to do. And if it makes somebody unhappy, it makes them unhappy. Um, it's sad to think, it's like I said, I think probably in our last podcast, I said in an interview that I had to push to get set up to take place with an individual, Denny Hollenrank. Pushed and pushed to try to get it to happen because I wanted to talk to Denny. Finally got it to happen through, Investigator Worth or Deputy Worth got it to happen at the law center. It was absolute the most chaotic thing I've ever been a part of in my life. I mean, it was ridiculous the way it went with law enforcement sitting right there, and at the same time, there was information that I had told the sheriff about that I asked Deputy Worth about. He said he had no clue. And this is the first he was ever hearing of any of the information. I specifically asked Steve Rockwell, that was the last person to see my brother alive, if he'd ever been set down for a formal interview by law enforcement. And his answer was no. I mean, so what kind of investigation has been done? Me personally, I think none, I mean, other than, shot in the dark. I mean, right before I went kind of silent and quit doing everything, I gave specific information to law enforcement about two individuals that in fact had talked to an investigator at the Ottumwa Police Department, 20 miles away, and gave them information about a guy that had over the years, for several years, bragged about being involved in killing the guy from Albion, putting him in a well by Blakesburg, and I gave him the names. I gave him everything that I knew that I was told. Nothing's ever, I don't think anything's ever even been done with that. Whether it's true, not true, or whatever, it's still something that, that you've got to at least look into. And then, like I said, in the post the other day, I guess what really kind of brung everything to a head for me was, getting a letter from, or an email, from the person that's handling this case, stating that we're just kind of sitting back waiting on, hopefully the state gets a cold case unit and they can take over, and we just don't have the resources.
Speaking of a cold case unit, Mark, I want to say this, but the Eclipse Truth said our lovely vice president, they have just given 750 million was just allocated for home searches or registered gun owners. It's called a red flag fund. Like she said, I would call this a red flag fund. Right. And I asked her if it was on a federal level, and she said that, yes, we've got money for you. Come get it. For the law enforcement. That's per the vice president.
Well, and I mean, it's back to the same thing. I've talked to a few guys in law enforcement that, that I trust and I talk to, somebody's got to wake up someday and realize that, that this human trafficking is a real deal. I mean, and there's tons of money that they're trying to throw at that. And I don't know why these agencies out here, even these small agencies, wouldn't be reaching out somewhere, trying to get some of that money to look into human trafficking, because it's related to missing people. You don't know. It can be the same. It can all be. Some of them are going to be. Some of them are not going to be. But it still would be money to go out there and investigate these cold cases. I mean,
Yep.
it just blows my mind that, that your excuse in my book for not doing anything is you don't have resources. It don't take resources to talk to people and interview people.
Yeah.
There's free resources out there. There's all kinds of different things that can be done and reached out for if that's what you want to do. I mean, um, I don't get it. So I mean, that's part of where I'm at right now. I mean, I'll make it very clear. Law enforcement, it's going to be an interesting battle because I know I got to have law enforcement on my side to ever find justice for Harry. I have to, you know. But there's got to be
Yeah.
something somewhere, a happy medium somewhere or something because, I'm going to start, my next step, I'll be very honest, is to start putting out freedom of information requests to everybody, and finding out what's been done. That way I can compare that with what I do know.
Yep.
And then hopefully at some point get to a level of law enforcement to where, some of the conversations I've had with people, I can put into somebody's hands that I trust to do something with it, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know what
Earlier,
else,
are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Hello? Did I lose you?
Oh, okay. Well,
Yep.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Iowa girl had asked earlier if you ever got Harry's military records because I know you had been working on them for quite a while, trying to get them.
Well, that's an interesting subject in itself, just because, like I said, um, you know, one of the people in our circles worked very, very hard to try to get those records and done me so many things trying to get them. And we've got some, and it don't make no sense because, that's another thing that I've got to do is I've got to, start contacting some senators and some higher up people to clarify some things because we went through Senator Ernst to the Marine Corps, and she did a congressional inquiry to the Marine Corps and got a response back from a gal at the Marine Corps who represents the United States Marine Corps saying they don't have there's no records of military records for Harry Milligan.
Hmm.
And at the same time, I've got some of them in my possession, military records of Harry Milligan, that I got through another source that was in the military. And so I don't know what's going on there. I mean, that just to me is mind baffling that, you know,
It is.
the Marine Corps now is saying we don't have any records when I can show them records that I have. So, sometimes it's hard with work and everything else to do everything I need to do. Here pretty soon, I'm unfortunately probably going to be off work for a little bit. I got to have some medical stuff done. So I'm going to have a lot of free time on my hands for a little bit to try to straighten all that stuff up and do some more digging into it. What's that?
Yeah.
You said you don't have to go over the basics if you don't want to, but if so, would you mind just giving us a recap of what happened that day?
Sure. Just for Eclipse Truth, Lori was reading off the question about just wanting to know the basics of what happened that day. Basically, Harry was 21 years old. He was out of college. He went to school at Southeast Missouri State, now Truman State, which is about, I think, 60 miles kind of south of where we live in Kirksville, Missouri. Well, he was home for the summer. On July 4th weekend, he had been helping a guy paint a house. Some friends talk, a couple friend or a friend talked to him when he's painting the house. He came home from painting the house, changed clothes, told my mom some things as far as, like get him up the next day. He had a softball game. He'd help her with some carpet and stuff that she was doing, later on that weekend or the next day or whatever. And he left to go to town, as a typical 21-year-old does, went to town to go out for the night. He went out for the night. At one point was talked to one of a very good friend of his, Darwin Thomas, at about 10:20 at night. Harry had a cooler full of beer. I don't know a case, but he had a cooler full of beer in his car. Tried to talk Darwin into not going to work and going out and just partying for the night, and Darwin wouldn't do it. So Harry went on his way. Later on that night, he at one point, I think before that, he was stopped by one of the local cops in town. Later, talked to a guy on the square, one of his friends on the square a little bit, and then went to the bar. Was at the bar with one of his a couple of his very best friends. Mick Flattery says that he walked out of the bar at midnight, or not midnight. He walked out of the bar at 2 a.m. with Harry, and he says another friend by the name of Van Seaman. Van don't recall walking out with Harry, but Mick's pretty adamant that, we walked out of the bar together at 2 o'clock, walked over toward the library, which was just like a half block over from where the bar was. Everybody parked over there because there wasn't much parking around the bar, and you kind of parked over there so that maybe you thought the cops, wouldn't think you was at the bar. But remembers walking out of the bar with him at 2 o'clock in the morning. At 3:45-ish in the morning to 4 o'clock in the morning. As far as we know, Harry was either in his car, depending on the stories. The original story was Harry was in a car with Steve Rockwell, Jeff Adler, Doug Matty. They rode around for a while, drank a few beers, kind of talked about maybe going to Tumwood to eat breakfast, changed their mind. At about 3:45-ish in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, they say they dropped him off, or two of them say they dropped him off at his car parked by the library, and saw him get in his car and drive south, which would have been toward going if he was going to go toward our home in Avery. And that's the last anybody's ever seen of him. Now, the stories from the last three individuals with him have changed, in my opinion, considerably over the years. Jeff Adler, he has never spoke to me, ever. Steve Rockwell, he does talk to me, but his story has changed multiple times as far as this whole dropping off, and even at one point now says that Doug Matty wasn't even with him other than maybe for a couple minutes earlier, long before they dropped Harry off. So it's just been a complete kind of ghost story from that point, like I say. And so that's the whole mystery in itself, is what, was Harry ever really dropped off at his car? I don't believe so. I've had information since then that Harry's car wasn't parked at the library. It was parked clear over by what was the Peaster station at that time, which is another about half block to a block away, that it was parked over there. It wasn't parked at the library at all. I've had information from a pretty good source that says his car was still there early that morning when Steve Rockwell went to work. And he was asked about why was it still there, so without giving up too much detail on everything. So like I say, stories have changed. Jeff Adler, he was interviewed 10 years later. He says he was in Harry's car when he got out at the library. So, it's just kind of one of them things of things don't add up, and that's why I say we're kind of looking at probability versus, possibility. the more chaos divers comes, the more places we look at, the more things that we can scratch off and say, we know Harry's vehicle's not here, it's not here, it's not here. Then I start looking at the information that I do have, which leads me to believe that, to be very honest, I believe Steve Rockwell knows exactly what happened to my brother. I think Jeff Adler knows exactly what happened to my brother. I know law enforcement, when I initially was pushing all this, I was willing, in my opinion, I said, I don't care if somebody's given immunity, to come forward and talk. They went to Jeff Adler even after they knew they couldn't promise him immunity, and they tried to promise him immunity to talk, and he still wouldn't talk. So, those are my opinions. That's why I say I highly believe there are people here that know what happened. In my book, these same people that were last with him, unless there's something that somebody knows that I don't know, have never spent any effort whatsoever trying to find out what happened to Harry Milligan. So that tells me they probably know what happened to Harry Milligan, and they don't want the truth to come out.
I agree.
I've offered to pay for polygraphs for every one of them, for anybody named in Harry's case file that was talked to or suspect or whatever. We've raised, right now I think the reward fund for Harry is around $25,000. I could look it up on my phone to be exact, but it's around $25,000. That money was raised to, for two things. One, for any use of purpose to help locate Harry, or, pay for something that was needed, if law enforcement or whoever or whatever, we would try to, to help pay for that. I'll pay for the polygraphs, and nobody will take me up on it.
Yeah.
Two guys that were friends of Harry. There's two guys that were friends of Harry's. They have said that they would take polygraphs if asked, but at this particular point, I don't really have any reason to question what they've told me. But any of the last three that were with Harry that night, nothing.
Yeah.
Steve Rockwell, he owns a multi-million-dollar business right here in Albia, so, you can't tell me that, you ain't got time to go take a polygraph test. It's pretty simple.
If it was me, I'd be running to take one to clear my name.
Simple questions. I've had 3 or 4 polygraphs done of myself. They're pretty simple, pretty straightforward questions. I'd like to see Steve Rockwell's wife take a polygraph test. Simple as that. There's a lot, there's a lot of different things that, why or how come they haven't been done, or why aren't people willing to do, I guess just to clear their name. For the people that don't that are new to this case and new to Harry's story, I'll even add a little more to the story of Albia, Iowa's 3,500 people in 4 months, 5 months. What was it for? Tim's.
Yeah,
4 wasn't it?
Yeah, 4. I think it's 4 months before Harry came up missing. We have a unsolved murder still in Albia. A guy was shot dead right in his house in broad daylight, and 2 rounds put in the back of his head in his house, and it's still unsolved.
Yeah, I was reading on his case file last night.
How many towns do you know that of 3,500 people have 2 unsolved crimes, or you can call one of them a crime, one of them a missing person, whatever you want, for over 40 years, for almost 40 years now. And it's simple. They have DNA. They have DNA in Tim's case. I don't know if they've ever sent it in to check. I've got the entire case file and went through the whole thing. I personally don't think the suspect that they think killed Tim Ernie killed Tim Ernie, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. Quick question, Mark. Mike, how can law enforcement ignore proof like it's the black and white? They can bring a person in to question them, interrogate them, whatever. And the person who said they never would speak of that night, isn't that enough proof for them to question that person?
The problem
You're a law enforcement. I don't know. I don't know what
it's still back to that same thing that if no matter what proof, I'm a court TV junkie. I'm a court junkie, all that stuff. That's what all these circumstantial cases about. But if you watch all that, you'll see that, those are all circumstantial cases, because nobody, not anybody, ever has to talk to the police, period.
Yeah.
You don't, they can suspect you all they want. They got to prove you committed the crime, but you don't ever, they can never force you to incriminate yourself, in any way. So that, it's sad, but, these guys, unfortunately, they don't have to talk to the police. But, I guess I couldn't walk around every day in society and think that everybody thinks that I'm a part of something like this. And I've never, really offered to do anything.
Yeah.
Steve Rockwell, when you went and talked to him, said he was going to donate a large fund, a large amount of money to Harry's reward fund to help find Harry. Never happened.
He wanted the bank, and then somebody gave me the wrong bank, so I had to call him back and give him the correct bank. That really, I was very disappointed.
You don't trust it. If you don't trust it in that, if a person don't trust it in that fund, then do it yourself. Just say, hey, I'm going to put up X amount of dollars. There's places that have done that over the years, to where they miss it. I think the one they found in northern Iowa there, the community, there was like multiple businesses pledged, we'll pledge $10,000. We'll pledge this, blah, 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 to information leading to the recovery of this person that's missing from our community. It's you don't have to have, all you got to do is have the money available if somebody ever comes through with it, and it's determined that they gave the information or whatever, and then you have to then pay your money or whatever. You don't even have to put no money out. Just pledge the money and say, hey, I'll put up $50,000 that if Harry's ever found, I'll that money will go to the person that provided the information.
Well, the Eclipse Truth, and I know she's still in here, was mentioning to me in the chat when we first started about somebody that would be probably willing to look at, it must be a big true crime creator. She said she would get back to me with it another time, but if she could put the name in the chat again. And then I also want to say that I've got Harry's, for his fund, I've got the PayPal and the Venmo scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If anybody wants to donate, whether that be $1, whatever, anything helps, anything. And then I also put the QR code. So you just take your phone and you scan it, and it will bring up the PayPal. So if anybody wants to do that, that would, I know Mark and Lori would really appreciate it, because I don't know about
all that money is going to be used for, like I say, one, either, like we did signs, and we've done billboard, 4x8 signs, put them up around town, and regular yard signs, bumper stickers. I've still got a lot of stickers, bumper stickers left. If anybody wants that, I've still got probably, 20 or 30 yard signs. If anybody wants any, let me know. To put out there and keep Harry's story out there. We got koozies, we got, but that's what it's all going to go for. It's either, if it don't go for that, it goes for the fact, like I said, if somebody was to come that gave me information or gave law enforcement information that directly leads to the location of Harry, I'll write them a check for every penny in there tomorrow, So I mean that's what it's for. And someday if you know, I'm never going to stop looking. But like I say, if someday we decide that the money's just sitting there, I'm gonna try to figure out some kind of way to do a scholarship through the high school or through an organization, in the name of Harry or something along that lines to make sure that it all goes to a good cause someday.
Yes. What if somebody decided they wanted to, a private investigator came to you and said, I would like to help. What? Yeah, me too.
I would love that. The biggest problem is cost. I mean, even sitting there with $25,000 in an account like that, a private investigator, I know what they cost.
It's not a lot
could run
for a private
in a matter of a
investigator.
month. Some of the biggest questions I got, and I'm going to get some answers to it pretty soon because, like I said, law enforcement's going to get really mad at me here again. They got mad at me the first time; they'll get mad at me again. Here within the next week or so, I'm gonna hand them.
They have to understand.
Right. Well, I'm going to hand them some FOIs. I want to know what they've done. I want to know.
They would.
I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions on the DNA stuff and my rights to that DNA and how it can be used because and people out there that are new, I don't know everybody's background, what who you know. One of the biggest things I'm looking to find out, I can't really ever find an answer, is reference to DNA. Because I want to know if I have a right to that DNA as part of Harry's case. And the reason I say that is, I understand it's in the Dakota system, the law enforcement based system, but now there's, 1,2andMe and all these other different DNA genealogy sites out there that I would like to be able to see if I could have that. I want that DNA to submit to those sites to see, like a good friend brought to my attention at one time, have we ever checked all of those sites, with Harry's DNA to see if he has any kids out there or any other relatives out there, because, that would say that, that could rule out everything and say, oh, shit, he's got a kid out here. So he didn't go missing. He's still alive somewhere, and not that I believe that he is, but it's just another one of those things in my mind, just like the searches and stuff that we do with chaos. It's all about easing your mind to say, okay, now I know that's not the case. I know, that he's not alive. He's not out there running around somewhere, I don't know, and I seen Smith and Smiling Wolf's deal. Yes, it is. I'll be very honest. As far as Harry's DNA and stuff, I don't have. They have his DNA. I don't personally have his DNA. Under Iowa law, yes, a last living, the living relative can request his birth records. I did that through Iowa. I did not get any. Fortunately, Colorado has the same existing law as Iowa, and I haven't. I mean, so the only thing law enforcement has that I don't really have is the actual DNA. I know who Harry's birth mother is. I know who his family is. All of that stuff. It's not something I'm putting out there because I don't know the circumstances and the makeup of why Harry ended up being adopted and all of those things.
Yeah.
Times were different, 60 years ago than what they are right now. And I'm not out to cause, any grief toward anybody. So that's something I'm working on. But I do know that information, I mean,
so can I ask a question, Mark? Okay. So what happens if you get 50%, 75% of Monroe County to sign a petition for them to do something regarding Harry's case? for law
You know,
enforcement. We have a new county attorney. Would the new county attorney, if we brought a petition with all these signatures, would they do something about it then?
I don't know. You're still dealing with that law enforcement side of things where law enforcement is going to do what law enforcement does. I've reached out to the new county attorney. I reached out to her. I actually spoke to her on the phone and told her that I wanted to meet with her. She told me that she, would be more than happy to sit down and talk to me. She said she would have to check her schedule and she would get back with me. And that was months ago.
That was a long time ago.
I've never spoke to her. It's no different than the last county attorney that when we started all this, John Pabst. He made statements, which I've got all recorded because I've recorded every conversation I've had with every one of them at every moment. Made a statement in our first meeting when I got the FOI, and law enforcement wasn't real happy about it, but it was my right, and he explained to them that it was my right. But he also said that he had a box full of information, administrative paperwork that he had in his office, and asked me. He said if I wanted it, I could get it. I said, well, we had a kind of short conversation about, if it's just administrative type paperwork, I don't really know if I need it. I'll let you know if I want it. A couple months go by and I decide, well, maybe I want to see what that is. And I get back in touch with him. And now it's been moved from his office to the courthouse, to the gals at the courthouse know about it. We go there. They don't know anything about it. I get back with his office. He accuses me of recording him over the phone, hangs up on me. And now nobody seems to know anything about this box of paperwork.
Wow.
So I mean, it's that, that's where things are just so frustrating. It's like,
well,
why? I mean, you said there was now, and you said
Mark,
it was here.
And this is the reason why people call people like me conspiracy theorists. It's because when things are inconsistent and they're not right, something is wrong. And I don't care. A lot of these
that's what everybody needs to look at.
Mark,
it's just like now. I'll be very honest. You look at Monroe County right now. I don't live in Monroe County anymore.
I do.
So yeah, you do, and a lot of people I know, and everybody else does. Right now it sounds like I haven't heard it official, but it sounds like the sheriff Dan Johnson is retiring because 3 of his deputies are running for sheriff. And I understand, and I completely understand. In a small community, it's hard, but people need to sit back and really take a look at their law enforcement. I get small town law enforcement. I work there. I've been a part of it. I know how things can be. But at some point, you got to start looking at what do we got to change? These guys that are there, the 3 guys running for sheriff, Joe Worth, he's handling Harry's case. Todd Stewart, he's a Marine, a friend of mine. I've known him for a long time. I've known Joe for a long time, and I know Scott Dunning for a long time. Scott, me, and Joe, we all grew up in Avery together. We're all about the same age. They're a little bit younger than I am, but they're all good people. And I ain't saying that you necessarily, one's better than the other or anything like that. But I think in general, it's been a push across the country. It's got to start in small towns too. That transparency in what law enforcement is doing is your business. You know what I mean? It's everybody's business. That's why I say I'm going to piss them off royally, I'm sure, soon with the Freedom of Information request, because one of the Freedom of Information requests that I'm going to ask for is I want to see when you tell me that you don't have the resources to look into my brother's case, then you must be pretty goddamn busy. And I want to see it. I want to see the statistics and the facts of calls for service, investigations, what investigations are being done, how many are being completed. All of that stuff. And it's all the public's right to know. And all you got to do is ask for it in the right way.
Yeah. We're taxpayers. We have
you
the right
know,
to know.
I want to see that too, because that's going to be part of my argument when I start approaching like the state ombudsman or the state attorney's office and say, look, I'm tired of this. I'm really, really tired of it. You know, I get you want to say you don't have resources. No, it's all about who's being transparent and who's being held accountable to do their jobs and who's not. You know, plain and simple. You know, it's just it's simple fact. With the first FOI I got X amount of pages of my brother's file, which is an absolute joke and a mess because it was all disorganized. You've seen it, completely disorganized.
I've got
But the bad part about it was I got that same file. I got the file back in 1996, probably when Sheriff Larry Merrill was there. I got the file from him. He handed it to me, said, make a copy of it. Let me know if there's anything you see in it. He said, I want you to have it. I don't want to hide it. There might be something you see that is important and we need to look into. So I made a copy of it. Well, when I got the Freedom of Information request from the Sheriff's Department, one, I had to pay an ungodly amount of money for it, it seemed like. Second, I've got more information than what they've got. And I've brought it to their attention more than once that, you know, hey, I've got probably 30, 40 more pages than you have of this file. I'm not sure what's going on here or where you're missing, you know, files are at. But I've got more, and nobody's ever asked and said, oh, hey, how about you bring what you have in and let's compare this and make sure we got everything.
That there does not make any sense at all. I mean, and that's what I'm saying.
And then on top of that, I've got Tim Ernie's file that I got from his family to look at. And I find information in Tim Ernie's file that should be in Harry's file.
Yeah.
It's not about Tim Ernie, it's about Harry. You know, and it's like, why is that? Why is this such a mess? Why are your records and why is your stuff completely, you know, in shambles? You know, I mean, and the only person who's responsible for that is the sheriff. Plain and simple.
That's responsible for that.
And I want to see what they got now versus what I had then, because I, you know, very honestly, I'm going to be taking the information to the state's attorney's office and saying, look, somebody here needs audited, somebody needs straightened out, something needs fixed, because this happened, you know, I don't know how many years ago, you know, 40 years ago, and this is all a mess. I don't want to see this happen to somebody right now. You know, what if it's your kid that comes up missing, you know, and this is the kind of, you know, mess that a file's in. You know, you've seen it, Allison. You couldn't make heads or tails out of that thing. I've spent hours and hours and hours going through it, trying to put it in some type of order. You know, I've had other people look at it and put it into files for me to help me and do everything. And it's just amazing that this is what it is. And it's to a point now where something's got to be done. And I sat back and I shut my mouth, stayed out of it for about 3 or 4 months. And now it's time to open my mouth and start talking. I mean, some of what has, you know, set that off is the fact when you tell me you don't have resources to look into it. And we'll just wait on.
I got a question. So back in 1984, who was the sheriff?
At the time that Harry came up missing, the sheriff was Denny Carr.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
and who later became a private investigator.
Yes, that worked on Harry's case. Okay, so now this day, the mess that we have, I know you said it was Dan Johnson's responsibility, but they didn't have computers back in 1984 to do all. It was all handwritten, obviously.
Right. Oh, I mean, completely. I completely understand.
So who would,
you know, 84 is a whole different world than 2024.
Yes.
You know?
So if they took the file that we have and put it into a computer file, who would be responsible to take that file and fix it and make it
they should
plausible?
Be. I mean, I mean,
okay.
You know,
that's
I mean,
what
it should have, you know, the answer I got when I first put in an FOI and talked about getting the information from them was directly from the sheriff. I was told, well, first of all, we're going to have to go through the boxes because it's a mess and there's multiple copies of things and it's just a disaster. Makes you feel real confident that over 40 years something's been done right.
And didn't at the old law center, didn't it flood before?
At one time they had a flood in the basement, and I think some of the records got wet. You can tell that on some of the paperwork, especially with, like, I think Tim Ernie's file that I have. Some of the paperwork, you can tell at some point or another it's been wet, you know. I mean, and I get it. You know, some of that stuff, sometimes stuff happens, you know. I mean, I get it. But, you know, come on, you know. I mean, it just is absolutely nuts, you know. I mean.
Yep. So once Dan Johnson retires,
it's just like, and it even rolls over and transpires. You know, I don't even know. I don't think I can name one city officer over there right now. I have no idea who the Albion police chief is. But
he's a really nice guy.
When what's his name, Evinger, was chief, I talked to them about getting any information that they had in regards to Harry's case. And their answer to me was, well, anything that was important, we'd already gave it to the sheriff's department, and everything else regarding Harry was purged out of our system.
What?
Yeah. Why? You know, I mean, it's still an ongoing missing person case. Why did you purge anything? You know,
that they can't do that. That's illegal.
You know, but who do you know? I mean, that's where I'm at to now. It's time to start talking to people, to start holding people accountable for everything. Okay. You know, and it's not that my goal is to find Harry, but at the same time, my goal is also accountability and making sure that something like this does not happen to somebody else. And the reason I say that is, you know, and I don't know if Aisha's listening tonight.
I don't know. She's going through some stuff. So,
and I know she's had a lot of stuff going on and everything else, but she's got, for the people that don't know, she's got a younger brother that's missing from a town 20 miles from us. And it happened 6 years ago, I think now.
Mm-hmm. Right around. I did a video with her a few months back, if anybody wants to go watch it.
But with that, and why I say when I say I don't want to see this happen to somebody else, I've got ties in the entire police case file. And it's atrocious. It would make you sick to see how law enforcement has treated that case. And it's not, one agency has done what they can do. The Centerville PD is really, you know, I know Tom Demery down there, the chief of police, they've done a lot of what they can do. But Macon County, Missouri, somebody should, if I had my choice, I'd be talking to the governor or some of the state's attorney in Missouri over the way this guy has handled things. I mean, it's absolutely atrocious. You know, they pretty much just went 19-year-old kid, probably involved in drugs, and to hell with him. You know, that's pretty much what they've done.
When Ty first went missing, it was crazy because Iowa and Missouri were in a feud to see which jurisdiction was liable. You know. It was terrible. It was awful. Yeah. I was
Centerville has done some things, but I really think their hands are kind of tied because he didn't come up missing in Iowa. He came up missing in Missouri. You know, I mean, they can only do so much, you know, and that's why I say, that's why I'm to the point now where it's time to start holding people accountable, you know. And saying, you know, why is things the way they are? Why have they got to this point? Because I honestly believe Harry's case is very solvable. You know,
oh, it is.
Whether it's Chaos Divers and myself finding Harry in a pond somewhere or a body of water somewhere, or people just doing a good law enforcement just doing a good investigation and putting people in a hot seat, you know, I mean, you know, that's all I can ask, you know, but it's sad. I mean, it's very, very, very sad.
With Dan Johnson going to be retiring, and I'm not saying anything about Dan. He's a very nice guy.
Yeah, super guy.
He's getting up there. He's retiring. He's getting up there in age. He wants to be with his family and do things while he's still here. So if Stewart, Dunning, or Worth get it, do they have more pull at getting funding or whatever than say Dan did, or how does that work?
It's all based on how much you want to put into it. I mean,
So
I
they
hate to
could
say
get
it,
funding for
you
it.
would hope, I mean, Scott, Todd, Joe, they're all young. They're pretty young,
Yeah.
and they got potentially several years of law enforcement left. So you would hope things would change a lot because of, like you say, they have that interest, that drive, and everything else. I get Dan's side of it. I've seen it in law enforcement over and over and over and over again. You get down to that end, especially like sheriffs, they get to that last term. They don't want to be bothered. I just want to do my last 4 years, get to my retirement, and get out the door. I've seen everything. I've done everything. I'm ready to move on. I get it. I did 21 years of it myself, and law enforcement is a thankless job that wears on you. I mean, there's a lot of things you see and have to do that nobody else wants to do. So I kind of get that side of it, but I also think it's a very big disservice to your community when you're not doing all the things that you can do.
Exactly.
There's so many programs out there. There's it's simple. It's just like the deputy that I've been talking to quite a bit, and a state trooper that I've been talking to quite a bit. All it takes is for a sheriff to say, you know what, you're right, I can't handle this. This is above our pay grade. We don't have the experience or the knowledge or whatever, and we don't have the resources. I need help. DCI, I need help. Or reach out to the other eight. That's the one other thing that I'm trying to work on too at the same time is I'd like to do a presentation to the different sheriffs and chiefs around the area here, because we have several missing person cases, and say, I spent 7 years working on a drug task force funded by all the different places, putting their money together and putting their resources and their officers together to work in everybody's territory and work on drugs. Why can't you do the same thing for missing people and unsolved crimes? It's not that hard. And if you can, like I was talking earlier, if you can swing that toward human trafficking also, there's probably endless amounts of funds out there that the federal government would throw at them to help fund their organization.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. It's so frustrating. I don't know. Iowa Girl says, how about DCI involvement? Well, don't we have
now, go ahead.
Don't we have one DCI agent here in Southern Iowa?
I was told at one time that Chris Spencer was was going to help Monroe County. They're DCI so undermanned that they don't have the time. A lot of times they're busy with homicides all over the state. That's what I was told. I don't know that Chris has done anything. I don't know. I don't know that the DCI has done anything at all, other than I know they conducted an interview for Monroe County of a gal several years ago that made some statements, and for some reason that statements were blacked out of the FOI I got. I don't know why. I got some questions on why that was not provided to me, but yeah, no. As far as I know right now, they're not involved in anything. I know that Attorney General, the state's attorney, is pushing or asked for the funding that was supposed to have been provided to the DCI for cold case investigators back in 2011, I believe. She asked, they had it for a while. I think it went from 2011 to 2013. Then it just kind of faded away and the money went away, or the allocation for the money went away. I know she's asked for it again. I've been trying to keep tabs on that as far as trying to figure out if it's going to happen or not. I had a gal get a hold of me the other day that's very close with one of the state representatives, and send me a flyer that they handed out at one of their last um, legislations meetings, or whatever you want to call it, that had missing people on it, missing stories of missing people. So I think there are some legislators and people out there that are truly pushing, to see that funding is allocated again. Um, and at that time, then of course, you're looking at, they'll hopefully start with a cold case unit again, but it's back to that same thing. How much is that going to be, and where are they going to start? I mean,
Okay. Well,
I'm
that
sure
goes to my next.
I'm not the only family member out there that's hoping, oh, you need to come look at mine. You know what I mean? And how many of the, last I heard, it was only going to be like two investigators.
Okay, so that's my next question, Mark. So if they don't have the funding and they don't have the staffing to do this, why don't they because the feds would come in and help if law enforcement contacted them directly and said, hey, we need help.
I've never been, I worked with feds in drug cases, and it was because we asked for help, a lot of times, or something was big enough that you just couldn't handle it all. And you knew that when it all come down to it, that somebody was going to get a lot more punishment on the federal side. So, I believe that you could ask whether they would help or not. I don't know, but I think it's still back to that same thing of everything's got to be spun the right way to the right people. And I think the biggest way to go about it, in my opinion, and just from other law enforcement and people I've talked to, is if there's a way to spin these cold cases and missing persons along with human trafficking stuff, the federal government would throw money at it hand and fist. And I guess to me, Iowa is one of the few states that don't have a cold case, probably has one of the most highly talked about, publicized missing person cases in the country over the years, which is the Johnny Gosch case.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that possibly ain't human trafficking. So you have some high notoriety type, it sounds bad when you say notoriety, but high profile type things like that out there that, given the resources and things, possibly could be solved. I mean, so it's back to that. I don't know a direct answer on that, but I think, there's always federal programs out there that, if people ask and go about in the right way, I think they can get them, they can get the help and the assistance,
Yeah.
But it's still back, I still, and I love Albia. I love the people of Albia. Everybody has been great to me, my family, to everybody,
I couldn't ask for a better community.
The biggest thing to me is you have to start questioning things, and keep questioning things. Make people answer questions, I mean, even if they get tired of it, I mean, there's, that's what it's going to take, because somebody knows, and like I said, I know a lot more than what I have put out to law enforcement, because basically they've told me they don't want my opinion. They don't want my part of things, and when I have gave them information, they move forward on it, so, it's as simple as, like you say, with Deputy Worth in the deal. He specifically told me a name of somebody I should try to get in contact to and see what they have to say. I got a hold of that person. I talked to that person. He told me a whole story I'd really never even heard before. But nobody's ever asked me whatever, he never got back with me and asked me what that person told me.
That's crazy.
I mean,
is Jerry Dye one of your friends, Mark? Is
I have
Jerry
no
Dye
idea who Jerry is.
Okay, well, he came on early on and he said he was going to be getting ready to retire this in April, and he would love to be able to help you out with Mark's
Sure.
or Harry's case. And then he's saying like threats and intimidation does not faze him. I will definitely be sending Mark a message this evening to set up a meeting, hopefully yet this weekend. So Jerry,
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
I'm.
Are you part of Harry's Facebook group, Jerry? I'm gonna put the link in the chat again. Just all you have to do is request if anybody else wants to do it, and then somebody
Yeah,
will
like I say,
come in.
I'm not familiar with Jerry. I mean, if I do know you from some time or another, I don't recall. But yeah, reach out to me. All you gotta do is message me on Messenger. I'll be more than happy to meet up with you and talk and do whatever. I'm always looking for help. I mean, I got a great circle of friends, real close friends right around me that help me with so much stuff. It's unreal, including, which includes you, Allison. But I'm always looking for help, always looking for people that want to keep, come up with a different idea, willing to do something that maybe I haven't thought of.
Or big channel creators. I am a very, very, very small channel. I mean, I don't get to go live, but we need these big channel creators to interview Mark and talk about Harry. I'm talking, Kendall.
Yeah, I mean, and like I say, and it's not just Harry. I mean, granted, I'll talk about Harry all day and try to get out, but it's all missing people, and unsolved crimes, especially missing people. Because I mean, I've seen this. I mean, I can't say I've seen it. I've lived this. I mean, I see it. I live it. I have a lot of opinions about everything, but the sad part about what I see in this country is if you are between the age of 18 and probably 30 and you're a male and you come up missing, nobody really gives a rat's ass unless you're some senator's kid or some, rich brat somewhere. Nobody gives a shit. You're just associated as one of those, low life or, not important people, and you're just forgotten about.
Yeah.
And I want to make it to where, we talk about stuff like that and get it out there that none of these people should be forgot about, that's the sad part.
Yep. I agree. Lori said that you made a promise to your dad that you plan on keeping that promise. Lori said that you made a promise to your dad and you guys plan on keeping that promise and bringing Harry home. Yeah.
I promised I'd find him. Bring him home someday.
Yep.
So it's going to happen at some point.
And,
I mean, there's things, like I say, that need to be known. And I've got some people that I just have to get a hold of and talk to. Some people have avoided me, there's people that I've tried to Facebook messages. I've tried to, send text messages on a phone and to a number and blah, blah, blah. And they just absolutely won't answer, and it makes me wonder, when I'm being told, hey, this person, I'll throw one of the names out here. And I don't, if anybody is listening and wants to know, Mike Selenick, I've tried to get a hold of you. I don't know how many times, I've been told, what happened to Harry, get a hold of me, simple as that. That's one person that I know of, and it's that those kind of things that just irritate me to death is the people that just absolutely ignore you, because that just, to me, being a cop instinct, leads me to believe that maybe more than what you want to say.
Yeah. But, yeah, Nana, it's been way too long. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I appreciate
now that
coming in.
I'm just so glad that. And I appreciate you coming on and using
and like
my platform.
With Jerry, with anybody, with Jerry, with anybody that's on here, if you have resources, you have people that, want to share the story, want to talk, or if you think you have an ideal of a way to do something, different than what I've done, message me. I will message you back. I mean, sometimes it takes me a little bit with work, or the fact that sometimes, like when I do a video like this, the next thing I know, I'll have, 50 messages, and try to get back to everybody sometimes can take a little bit. But, I'm willing to listen to anybody. I'm willing to, try new things and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I just know that the first time I met you, and you told me the story, I couldn't stop thinking. And gosh, that was what, 8-9 years ago. I just can't stop thinking about Harry. So I just know that it drives me crazy. So I can't imagine what it does to you.
The sad part about it was, there you was living in Albia and didn't have a clue about.
I didn't.
About
nobody
Harry's
was
story.
talking about it. Jim come later. I'm like, Jim, who's this Harry Milligan? He's like, oh, he went, and oh gosh. And I sent you a Facebook message because I was like, man. So I don't understand how other people, it doesn't pull at their heart, and they want to get more involved. I don't know, but Jerry says he is a part of the Facebook group. Awesome.
All right. Yeah, I'll have to. Yeah, get a hold of me.
Yep. We will do this again.
I've went to the point, I've even went to the point I've had a person tell me, that Mike Stalker said he killed Harry. Mentioned that to Deputy Worth the last meeting we had, and he said he had no idea that I'd ever told the sheriff that. So it's that simple. It's all about talking, and people talking, questioning, talking, and seeing what comes out of it. Even if it's your family member, whatever, ask questions. It don't hurt. Yeah. All it's going to, all it does is add more pressure to the people that do know.
Yep. I agree. Just keep putting Harry's name out there, ask questions, talk. My daughter, my youngest, she's 18. She was talking to a bunch of kids, 18, 19, 20-year-old teeny boppers down in Centerville the other night about Harry.
Oh, and that's awesome.
Yeah. And she told me, and so, my kids, they know how much Harry means to me and how much you and Lori mean to me. And they told me that when I'm gone, they will take over. So, we're not going to stop. No, but we are not stopping.
No.
And I know several people.
I guess that's what the people that matter need to realize. I'm not going away. We're not going away. It's this is in a way, a stigma of Albia. These two cases are here. That's what, that's a part of Albia. And until they're cleared up, they're always going to be a part of Albia, and they're not going to go away.
Yeah. Kim McDonald says, I wish we could hear more of the case. I've never heard of this one. Hear from Chaos Divers. Sorry, I don't understand more of what's going on. Kim, that's okay. I have a playlist of nothing but Harry Milligan videos. You can go watch them, and we've got so many of them. But yeah, Mark explains everything.
Yeah, TCA, Allison's got a lot of them. You can also go on Chaos's site. They've got several. They just released one the other day of part of our searches. So there's several. Join the Harry page. There's stories on there, interviews I've done with Chaos, with other people. I appreciate you coming in, and I appreciate you being interested and the whole 9 yards. So, and I've seen one other question. Oh, when is Chaos Divers coming back? Chaos Divers are, from talking to Jacob, it sounds like they're going to be here in the early part of June. I think somewhere maybe around the 6th is kind of what he had mentioned. I don't know that, with them, that's why they're Chaos Divers. You never know what's going to happen next, but love them to death, and that's kind of what I'm shooting for and hoping that's when they're going to be back, and I'm sure that's what they're hoping for. But I also know, it's the same as everybody else. Life goes on, and also there's times when they may get calls to go somewhere where they really need to be, looking for somebody or whatever. Like I said, they're like family to me and Lori. I mean, they have helped me so much with just ease of mind, by checking so many places and working so hard at what they do that it's unreal. I mean, a lot of sweat and tears have went into to a lot of stuff. That's for sure.
They're definitely angels. I actually did I did a video, Kim, since you come from Chaos Divers. I actually interviewed just Lindsay a while back, and just to talk about what it's like being on the road and doing all this with guys, and how she's just a strong, very, very strong woman, very good hearted. I adore her. And I'm so thankful that Harry
Her and
has
Eric
brought
are
me.
her and Eric are very special people, and
I have
I'm
not
very
got to
glad.
meet
I
Eric.
know Lindsay and Eric just went through a scare with Garrett
Yes.
and everything. And I'm so glad to see that he's doing fine, and seems like everything's back to normal for them. So,
Yep.
that's kind of a scary deal. And like I say, that's one of them things where, life hits you, and you gotta take care of life things at sometimes too. So,
Yep. Well, if there's not anything else, we can we can talk and do another one maybe in a month or so. It's up to you. I am at your beck and call. You let me know when you want to do.
we're gonna pick up the pace a little bit more. I know, like I said, I had to take a little break. But
That's
yeah,
good.
we're going to pick up the pace a little bit more. I just, like I said, I've got some, I may be having back surgery here coming up in the next short period of time. So I'm going to have some time off. I'm going to probably, like I said, doing FOIs, a lot of emails, a lot of different things to start really, moving things forward. So as we move forward, we'll, you're always my go-to for getting everything out to everybody, and we'll start there and just keep moving forward, so.
Yep. What's Lori going to do when you're not going to be able to,
Well, you mean she can't get away from me for 6 weeks?
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to say, Allison. What's she gonna do?
Yeah,
I
couldn't spit it out.
I'd probably kill me. I'm probably better off they keep me in the hospital. But yeah, she's doing her normal. She's sitting back there with the dogs and listening
Where's
to everything.
The dogs? Are they on her lap?
Oh yeah, she got them
on her
lap.
See. Yep.
So I mean, yeah, she's gonna have to put up with me for a little bit. Hopefully, I can get it straightened out and get back to work as soon as possible.
Well, yeah.
But other than that, like I say, as things move forward, I'm going to keep putting it out to everybody. I'm not going to hide anything. I'm not going to pull any punches anymore with anybody. It's time for me to do what I got to do. I've sat back and tried to let other people dictate how things were going to be and how things were going to go. And now it's time to just, start moving up the chain, and seeing where things go,
Yeah, I agree. Well, if you don't have anything else, we can.
Thank you, Allison.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Good luck on your surgery, Mark.
Yeah. Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks for everybody coming in. Share this video. Like it, do all that stuff, and keep getting the story out there. Is all I can say.
Yep, I agree. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night.
Right,
okay,
you
bye.
Too,
thanks everyone for coming in.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night.